Almost like it's surreal, like it's something you'd see on TV, and that it couldn't be someone in our company, someone that we knew.
4 children murdered in one night. A mother forced to watch her teenagers die. A father who called 911 to confess, twice. Gregory Green appeared to be a model of rehabilitation, a man who found God in prison, earned his parole, and started a new family. But beneath that carefully constructed facade lurked a calculating killer who would repeat his brutal crimes with even more devastating consequences. September 21st, 2016, Dearborn Heights, Michigan. The call came in at 1:15 a.m. The man on the phone was calm, almost eerily so. He had just killed his family, he said, and he would be waiting for police on the porch. When officers arrived at the quiet suburban home on Hip Street, they found Gregory Green standing there, just as he promised. Inside, a scene of horror awaited them, one that would haunt even the most seasoned investigators.
It doesn't occur every day, and it's, I think the adrenaline's starting to wear off, and most of the guys are really comprehending what happened. We obviously put our feelings aside.
Police officer interview clip. Obviously, as a father with 3 children, the ideology or just the thought that you could do something to your own children has no correlation to any reason in my mind. You're angry, you're just in disbelief. But to understand how this tragedy unfolded, we need to go back. Back to 1991, when Gregory Green committed his first murder. Back to when he made his first 911 call. Back to when he first showed the world who he really was. July 14th, 1991. Detroit, Michigan. Gregory Green was 25 years old, raised in a religious family and married to his first wife, Tanya Clayton Green. She was 6 months pregnant with their child, and she already had 2 young children from a previous relationship, aged 5 and 8. By all outward appearances, they were building a blended family together. But behind closed doors, Green's behavior had become increasingly controlling and violently aggressive. Tanya had confided in a friend that she planned to leave him. Like so many victims of domestic violence, she recognized the danger too late. She never got the chance to escape. That summer evening, while Tanya's 2 children were fortunately away from home, Green grabbed a steak knife from their Detroit kitchen. In a violent rage, he stabbed his pregnant wife 10 times, in her face, her neck, her chest, and her back. The attack killed both Tanya and their unborn child. Then, displaying the eerily calm demeanor that would become his signature, Green picked up the phone and dialed 911. When police arrived, Green welcomed them inside with an unsettling composure. "I stabbed her," he said matter-of-factly. "She's in the kitchen." Then, as if giving directions to a house guest, he walked the officers to the refrigerator where he'd methodically stored the murder weapon. His behavior already showed signs of the calculated brutality that would emerge again 25 years later. Violence followed by an almost bureaucratic handling of its aftermath. In 1992, Green pleaded no contest to second-degree murder. He was sentenced to 15 to 25 years in prison. But here's where the story takes an unexpected turn, one that would ultimately lead to the deaths of 4 more innocent lives. At first, he showed no signs of remorse or empathy for the murders, instead shifting the blame onto Tanya for his actions. Yet despite this red flag, Green proved to be remarkably adept at playing the system. During his time in prison, he maintained an almost perfect record. One minor altercation with another inmate over a television, that was it. He appeared to be a model prisoner. His block reports consistently rated him as excellent, noting his respectful behavior towards staff and other prisoners. He completed educational programs and developed plans for work after release. He is respectful to staff and other prisoners. No minor conducts to report. Read one evaluation after another. The pattern was clear. Green was either genuinely reformed or expertly crafting an image of rehabilitation. So support for his release began to build. Family members, friends, and even corrections officers wrote letters to the parole board, advocating for his release. "We believe Gregory is very sorry for what he did and has gained insight into his behaviors," his parents wrote in November 2006. "He has worked hard in prison, and he continues to make a positive adjustment." The parole board denied him 4 times, twice in 2004 and twice in 2006. But perhaps the most crucial support came from an unexpected source. Fred Harris, a Detroit pastor who knew Green before the murder. Michigan Department of Corrections documents show that Apostle Harris didn't just advocate for Green. He visited him in prison, building a relationship that would have devastating consequences.
I'm sure there are a lot of interested people looking into this, and I'll be one of those.
Harris wrote multiple letters to the Michigan Parole Board, describing the brutal killing of a pregnant woman as merely an unfortunate lack of self-control. He promised that his church would help rehabilitate Green, writing, "If he was to be released, he would be welcomed as a part of our church community, and whatever we could do to help him adjust, we would." The parole board finally granted his release in 2008. 2 years later, in a twist of fate that would prove catastrophic, Green married Faith Harris, the daughter of the very pastor who had championed his freedom. Had he been denied parole a fifth time, Green would have served until 2012, his maximum sentence. Instead, he was free to start a new family and ultimately destroy it. Faith already had 2 children from a previous marriage, Chadney Allen Jr. and Kara Allen. She and Green would go on to have 2 daughters together, Coy and Kayleigh. From the outside, it looked like a story of redemption, of second chances. But by 2013, the facade began to crack. Faith tried to get a personal protection order against Green, describing him as belligerent, saying he would kick things and make threats. She reported that he once told her things are going to get ugly if she didn't leave their house. The court denied her request, citing insufficient allegations. 3 years later, in August 2016, Faith filed for divorce. A month after that, Gregory Green would commit one of the most horrific family massacres in Michigan history. The night of September 21st, 2016, began in the basement of the Green family home. Gregory bound Faith with zip ties and duct tape. He slashed her face with a box cutter and shot her in the foot. But the physical torture wasn't the worst part of what Faith would endure that night. Green brought his teenage stepchildren, Chadney and Kara, to the basement. With their mother watching, helpless and bound, he shot them both in the head, execution style. Chadney was 19, Kara was 17, but Green wasn't finished. He led his 2 young daughters, Coy, 5, and Kayleigh, 4, to the family car as if they were going for a drive. These 2 innocent children had no idea what their father had just done to their siblings. Investigators would later find duct tape on the muffler, where Green had carefully attached a plastic tube. He ran this hose from the exhaust pipe into the vehicle's interior. As the car filled with carbon monoxide, the little girls fell asleep. They never woke up. Then, in a chilling echo of his first murder 25 years earlier, Green called 911. His voice was calm and methodical as he told the dispatcher he had just killed his family. When police arrived at 1:15 a.m., they found him waiting on the porch, just as he had promised. Inside, they discovered Faith tied up in the basement, the bodies of the 2 teenagers nearby, and the 2 young girls in their beds upstairs. The aftermath of the murders were just horrific. How could this happen? How could a man who had already killed his pregnant wife be released, only to kill again? Faith Green's statement in court.
I was their mother and father. I'm the one who took out the time with each and every one of them. I taught them how to do things as well as people in my family and friends.
Sometimes I dream of the night all this happened and wake up screaming and sweating, thinking that I can save my children somehow. Then I realize that the nightmare is actually reality, and that my children are really gone. I try to find the strength to start my day somehow. In February 2017, Gregory Green stood before a Wayne County judge and pleaded guilty to 4 counts of second-degree murder. He received a sentence of 45 to 100 years in prison, plus an additional 2 years for felony firearm charges. He will be 97 years old before he's eligible for parole. During his sentencing, Green offered a brief, seemingly emotionless statement. "I feel bad for how this has deeply impacted everyone, and may God help them, help me."
Bad for how this has deeply impacted everyone. And
Faith Green, showing remarkable strength, addressed her children's killer one final time in court. Faith Green's court statement. "You are a con artist. You are a monster. You are a devil in disguise. You are now forever exposed. Your justice will come when you burn in hell for all eternity, for murdering 4 innocent children, all because you're insecure. The physical scars from that night will stay with Faith forever. The box cutter slashed her face from ear to chin, severing multiple nerves. She still experiences constant pain from the gunshot wound in her foot. Doctors say she may never walk without pain again. But the emotional trauma runs even deeper. Faith suffers from PTSD, experiencing terrible nightmares and flashbacks. She can still feel the zip ties around her wrists. Some days, she says, she feels empty, lost, just existing day to day. The tragedy has taken its toll on Faith's entire family. Her mother struggles to get out of bed most days. Her father suffered a stroke from the stress. The wound, as Faith says, will never heal. But how could this happen? Can the system truly rehabilitate criminals? How well can we ever truly know someone? His prison record had been nearly spotless. Multiple people vouched for his character. He appeared to have reformed. The Michigan Department of Corrections spokesman, Chris Gautz, noted that if Green hadn't been granted parole in 2008, he would have been released in 2012 anyway, due to serving his maximum sentence. There were no red flags in his prison record, no indication of the violence to come. Even Dearborn Heights Mayor Dan Paletko struggled to make sense of it. During a news conference, he said, "It's just difficult to understand the motivation. I just don't understand what happened in this household. I can't fathom this whole process." But the reality hit hard. 4 innocent children. Chadney, the aspiring film producer who had just graduated from Digital Media Arts School. Kara, who dreamed of becoming an OBGYN and was set to graduate high school that year. Coy, who loved ballet, cheerleading, and planting flowers with her mother. And little Callie, who carried a purse filled with hand sanitizer and lip gloss, who loved to sing and dance. Their lives were cut short by a man who had already shown what he was capable of. A man who, 25 years apart, made 2 calm phone calls to 911 to report that he had just killed his family. For Faith Green and her family, time stopped on that September night in 2016. 4 children were lost, a mother was tortured, and a system that believed in second chances was forced to confront the terrible cost of being wrong.